Well, hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be riding the brand new R7 from Yamaha, and yeah, it's gonna be a good one, guys. Buckle up. It's gonna be a good one. I'm quite excited about riding this bike for the first time. So I currently own a GSXR 1000 and I'm interested in some of the middleweight category of motorcycles, and I think the R7, the Aprilia RS660, etc. are all really interesting bikes right now. So I just want to get a general impression of this one, and yeah, really excited to be giving it a go. I'm yeah, just gonna get out of some traffic here, and I will give you my I've been on the bike for about 2 seconds so I'll be giving you my very raw first impressions of what I think about it. So the first thing that stands out to me, well, there's a couple of things. I'd say there's three things that, like, the moment I sit on it and the moment I start riding it, there's three kind of things that happen. One is I notice how light it is. It's super flickable compared to the GSXR. It's a lot more light. Hello, that's nice. Anyways, it's a lot lighter. It's very flickable, very easy to turn in and out. And I have a feeling once you get this thing on its ear, it's going to be super agile and a lot of fun. So that's one thing. The second thing that stands out to me is that the pick up and go at low range is pretty decent. It's not lacking in the pick up and go department in regards to around town, at least. Definitely feels like it's got plenty of oomph in the bottom end. And the third thing that kind of stands out to me, which you probably just saw there, was that the quick shifter on it is rough. Now, the gentleman at the dealership mentioned to me that they had retrofitted this quick shifter, so maybe this isn't the official quick shifter setup, but going between gears, at least at low speeds, is definitely not smooth. So give you an example here in a second. So downshifting is pretty rough. Upshifting is pretty rough. There's a definite thunk that happens whenever you end up going through your gears. Now, maybe higher up in the rev range, that's not so much of a concern, but compared to other motorcycles that I've ridden, it's definitely a bit clunkier, if you will. The other thing that I immediately noticed coming off of my GSXR is that the brakes are not nearly as sharp. You have to properly wind them on. I'm used to like a 1 to 2 finger brake setup that'll pull you up really quickly, and part of that is because I've changed out the pads and other things on my bike, so I've got a lot more power in my braking. You know, they've got it looks like a Brembo master cylinder on here, so the hardware should be decent, but it's just like the initial bite is almost non-existent. You have to really pull on it to start to get the thing to pull up, and that would probably be the first thing I would change if I were to buy this bike. I would want to put new brake pads in it that give better bite, because I suspect that it's probably the pad compound more than anything. I found, strangely enough, I found on a lot of bikes that regardless of rubber hoses or anything like that, actually just switching out the pads gives you a very different experience compared to third gear. She definitely pulls. She definitely pulls. So yeah, anyways, brakes not so great. Light and agile, yeah, very. Handling is fantastic. It's really good. You really feel the bike. You can feel the road as well. Like, you can feel the undulations. It could be slightly unnerving if you're not used to it, but this really feels like you're going to have really good feedback with the road and really understand, you know, what's going on underneath you. So it's quite nice. I'm going to see if I can just slip through here. This is the beauty of a nice small motorcycle. Yeah, that's awesome. Nice and thin. Yeah, see, the quick shifter is better whenever you're slightly on the boil. Like if you're actually getting a little bit more revs into it, I think the quick shifter starts to smooth out. So it sounds to me like this quick shifting system is more built for track riding and less for around the street, kind of, you know, poodling along. I really like how light this feels. It feels like the R3. Seating position wise, I feel like it's not as aggressive as the GSX-R. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's still aggressive in terms of the arms are probably about the same distance away, and it just feels like you're seated into the bike a little bit more. I don't know, it doesn't feel as aggressive. It feels a little bit more comfortable, which I quite like. I really like the cockpit. You know, from the pictures that I've been seeing, this triple tree clamp, it just looks like a tin can from the pictures, and it just I don't know, it just really didn't appeal to me in the photographs. But whenever you see it in person, it actually looks really solid, and it feels quite nice. And the overall kind of layout, the dash and the triple tree and the kind of the low bars, it looks really nice. I have to say, I'm really happy with the look of the kind of the rider view, if you will. I think it's quite nice in regards to that. As a matter of fact, we'll get out and have a look at it later, and I'll show you around the bike. But I personally think this bike is stunning. Just visually speaking, overall, it looks really nice. I'm really happy with that aspect of it. It's no slouch. It's no slouch. It can definitely move. It's, you know, it is not a 1000cc superbike by any means. That's for sure. But let's see what I think it is going to be excellent for is this type of stuff. Oh yeah. It's weird, the back of the seat is quite high, so that whenever you get back in the seat, you actually feel a little bit nose down. The back of the seat, yeah, it just feels, I'm used to getting in the back of the seat and it being a little bit more in line with the rest of the bike, and this, when you get back, it feels like you're sitting up on the bike. It almost makes you want to kind of slip forward a bit, which is a little bit different. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just different. It takes some getting used to. But, oh man, This is excellent for a woohoo, for a little canyon twisties machine. This would be truly nice, truly nice. Oh yeah, oh yeah, it feels very good. In the corners, this thing is excellent. You could have a lot of fun on a smaller kind of twisty track. This thing would be a weapon. The intake roar is quite nice. It's got a really throaty kind of feel to it. It's not as vicious as the triples. It's a little bit more low-toned and more throaty, if you will, if you're into your throaty exhaust sounds. But it's got a nice rumble to it. I think it's quite pleasant. Yeah, those brakes, man, that needs to be worked on. But the agility is fantastic. You know, the flipping back and forth in those corners is just good. Really nice. Suspension is on the firm side. I quite like that. This is a bit of a bumpy road here, and you're feeling it for sure, which I think is a sign that this is built to do, you know, more sport orientated type things, which I quite prefer. So I think it's actually quite a nice thing whenever a bike is set up in such a way that you know that it's a little bit on the firmer side. The brakes will get you stopped, but it's not well, see that, you know, if you really properly pull into the brakes, they do have plenty of power. It's just that getting them to that point takes a lot more effort than I'm used to. So it's not that they're not powerful, it's just that you've got to pull quite hard to actually get them to that point. And yeah, I think for newer riders that's a good feature, and that you're less likely to wail on the brakes and get yourself into trouble. But for more advanced riders, you're gonna want a slightly different setup. Yeah, it definitely will pull you up, but it's not as refined as I'd like it to be. Alright, so we're gonna pull over here and have a quick look. It's absolutely a looker. I mean, visually speaking, it's stunning. It's, you know, classic sports bike. It's got you know, those really, I mean, it looks like an R1. It's got those R1 lines. It's really, there's not many bikes that you can kind of look at it from all angles and be like, you know what, actually, it kind of works. And this one does. This one really works from just generally all angles. Looking at it from behind, it's got that awesome tail fin section, which looks really great. You know, from the side, it's that classic sport bike line, which is also really smooth and flowing. And from the front, you know, I think the front is probably its weakest look, but it's still got a little bit of that kind of angry-eyed thing going on, which, you know, still sort of works. But overall, in terms of looks, I think this has got to be one of the best looking bikes out there at the moment in terms of new bikes. So I think there is a general question of, you know, who is this bike for? And, you know, when the R7 first came out, I was very much one of the people who said that, you know, this is for people who really like the superbike aesthetic but don't want to get dedicated to it, you know, in terms of body position, or, you know, immense amounts of power. And I think that still holds true. I think that, you know, this is a sports bike. There's no two ways about that. This is not a touring bike. You could tour on it, but it's not a touring bike. It's for the person who likes the aesthetics of a superbike and doesn't want to have to deal with the, you know, immense amount of power or the higher cost, or the super dedicated seating position. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. To be honest, I sort of fall into that category to a certain degree, except I do like the stupid amounts of power. And for me, I think that's where I would feel that this is perhaps, you know, lacking a little bit. If this was a Yamaha CP3, the triple engine with about 120 horsepower, I actually think that would probably be the perfect bike, possibly of all time. I think that's, for me personally, that's where it's at. Is that like that 120 miles an hour, or 120 horsepower kind of Goldilocks zone in a sport bike that is also comfortable. I think, you know, that would be something special. And this has that. I think it's got that sports bike on the road sort of thing. It's reasonably comfortable. It's not too expensive, but it's also not super powerful. It's more than enough power for the street. But if you're chasing that kind of thrill of a leader bike, it's not going to give you that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that per se. I think this bike is going to do very well. I think that there are going to be a lot of people who buy it as their second bike after starting on a 125, and I think that it is, you know, absolutely perfect for that. I think as a second bike, this is quite good. And for me, I could see myself buying this as a track day fun toy, in that, you know, swap out the brakes, put some stickier rubber on it, and have fun running around the outside of all the slow leader bikes in the playpen, you know. And you absolutely could. You could be top of the novice group in this bike. But yeah, I think for me personally, I would prefer to have the triple engine in it, with a little bit more horsepower, and I think I would find that to be really enjoyable. But I will say one thing that I do like about this is I like the simplicity of it. There's no modes, there's no, you know, there's no kind of anything really. It feels very analog, which I quite like. You know, you've got your dash, which is great, but I don't even think this thing has TC, which it doesn't really need for the power that it's outputting. But I do like that, actually. I like the fact that, you know, you've got something that's just simple and analog and just feels more natural. I really like this bike. I think it's a really important piece in the motorcycle ecosystem, you know. I'm glad that we still have bikes that look like super bikes, and I'm glad that we haven't lost some of that aesthetic, and some of that seems to be coming back, which I think is great. I do think that this is a perfect bike for a second bike, or even a first bike, even though the amount of grunt and get up and go is you know, reasonably decent. But I don't, you know, it's still a little rough around the edges. The quick shifter's not amazing, and it's and it's not as powerful as I'd like it to be. You know, I could do with another extra 20 to 40 horsepower, and then I think it would be perfect. So the handling is genuinely sublime. It's really good. The tip-in is super nice. Just the whole package just feels like it's built for a racetrack in regards to handling side of things, you know. Feels really excellent. You know, that's very, very, very nice. I can't speak highly enough of the lightness and the handling and flexibility and all of that. I think that's spot on. But as an overall package for me, I think as a third bike, or is it, I don't remember how many bikes I have now, I've lost count, third, fourth, fifth bike, it leaves something to be desired, I think. It's raw and it's pure, which I love, but what I'm really missing from this is a bit more power and a bit more refinement. You know, things around the quick shifter to be refined, and yeah, just a little bit more grunt. You know, I really think Yamaha, what you need to do is you need to take your CP3 engine, your triple engine, makes 115 horsepower. You need to have a look at the frame on your NT09, and you need to build something just like this with a little bit more refinement, a little bit higher spec on the brakes and on the electronics, and yeah, then you've got me. I'll buy that in a heartbeat. For what it is though, and for who this is, or who I think this is for, I think it's a fantastic machine. It's just not my next bike per se, but for someone it is going to be, and they're gonna absolutely love it, because doing stuff like this is just freaking brilliant. It's amazing. I've not felt a bike that feels that good in the corner before. That's just fantastic. Well done on that front, if nothing else, Yamaha. Well done. So there you have it, folks. That's my first ride impressions of the Yamaha R7. Fantastic machine. I really do appreciate the analog feel and kind of raw nature of this bike. I think there's going to be a lot of people that really enjoy this machine. So, you know, if you have one, or if you are planning on buying one, drop me a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you would like to see more motorcycle content like this, then hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye.